How's it going? This is Syx String.
Starlight Ironhoof.
Forest Rain.
And Zeta Prime.
And this is Elements of Harmony.
Why you still playing the cello so mellow? This is what it'll take to be alone. That's why they call me royalty.
Tonight on the show, we speak to a brony who is known and loved across the country, a staple at nearly every major convention, the brony Jesus himself, Tarby, the mastermind behind an epic and infamous one-man cupcakes-themed rock opera. Tarby is known for making epic tracks that encompass alternative, rock, metal, industrial, and even technopop. He is a musical powerhouse, and he joins us here tonight. And now we must all bow down because the brony Jesus is gracing us with his presence. Tarby, hello.
Hey guys.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay, I think.
Awesome. So a lot of our listeners have probably attended conventions and have probably bumped into you or seen you perform. And I know a lot of us here tonight, a lot of us hosts, have met you at conventions. So, for those that don't know, tell us a bit about who Tarby is and why he's incapable of creating a song less than 8 minutes long.
Okay, well, I am a musician, as you probably picked up on. I've been doing music for years. I've been writing my own for about 6 or 7 now, and I've been doing music in choirs and bands and stuff since like first grade. I started out in a band over in Cranston, Rhode Island, and then as that was coming to an end, I discovered the brony thing, decided why the hell not, this show is inspiring, I'll start writing music about it, because there was a couple of other people at the time that were sort of doing it. I started doing prompts based on the I started doing songs based on the prompts that were given to us in the Toast Beard competitions, because they were just starting out back then. And that's actually where a lot of my early songs came from. The Ballad of Autumn Dreams, Something Broke, which is the cupcakes thing mentioned in the intro, Only Time Will Tell, Chaos Rising, they were You and Me, they were all Toast Beard submissions. And yeah, that's about it, and I'm just doing my thing now. I've got a couple of EPs, an album out. I'm working on another album right now based on the Everfree Forest, so it should be good.
Yeah, speaking about your music, one thing, when I was looking at your your YouTube page, checking out all your music, one thing I noticed is that a lot of your songs are fairly long. It looks about, your average song is about 5 minutes.
5 minutes? His average song is like 10 minutes.
Yeah, right about around there.
Actually, the average song, I did it out, it's about 7.5 minutes.
Wow.
I have no idea why, you look on the channel, I think the only song that's less than 5 minutes, I think there's like 3, and the shortest one is 2.5, and it's literally a quick acoustic little ditty thing. I guess I have a lot to say. I think that's what it boils down to. Every single one of my songs, to some extent or another, is a story, and I don't like to skimp on the details. Plus, most of my stuff is really, low tempo. There's very little of my material that's faster than like 140 BPM. So it's very mid-tempo to low tempo. Most of my stuff is about 90. And it's just same chorus, progression, verse, etc. sort of thing, and I'll just sometimes add unnecessary verses, or make the bridges really, really long, because hey, I found this riff that I've wanted to use for 2 months, might as well throw it in here, it'll work. Because I don't really cater to, I guess you could call it the pop song length thing, because my stuff's not ending up on the radio anytime soon, so I just figure, why inhibit myself? If I got something to say, I'll say it.
Yeah, an interesting thing I noticed is you actually incorporate a lot of different genres
Yeah.
with your music. Is that part of just sort of participating in the Toastbeard stuff, or is that just you have a lot of influences?
It's yes, sort of both. I haven't done Toastbeard in a while. I think the last two I did the songs never saw the light of day, but the last one notably was a disco song, like complete friggin' Bee Gees ripoff sort of disco. And it's just I don't know. I found competitions like that gave me an opportunity to be able to do weird things. Gave me the ability to, or the opportunity to be able to experiment with new styles. And before that, when I was in the band, all the songs sounded like, it was very much a ripoff of that sort of modern alternative metal sort of sound. That's kind of what I was writing. I had a couple of demos of stuff that sounded like Pink Floyd, but outside of that, I was kind of stagnated in my tone, and getting into the Brony fandom and into that Toastbeard competition sort of allowed me to open my horizons, open sort of my influences, and it was actually the intensely, I don't want to say overpopulated, but definitely the largely populated electronic side of the fandom that really started letting me experiment with more synthesizers, with electronic drum beats, with samples, and that's sort of where the industrial sort of sound that's starting to take over my style came from. It was from being around people like Jackalap, General Mumble especially, Alex S., the really awesome bass synth leads that they would come out with. I was like, I want to do this, but I don't want to stop playing guitar, so that ended up being obsessed with Nine Inch Nails for a year and a half as a result of that infatuation, and here I am now.
Now, Toastbeard is actually something we haven't talked a whole lot about on this show, which of course it's a music compo, was very, very big back in the day, got a lot of musicians writing. Is there anything you really want to talk about with Toastbeard, Tarby?
Honestly, if I weren't working, I would try and see if I could hop on that bandwagon again, because it was nice. It allowed me to be able to experiment. It's like the first song I ever did for it. I dug the demo back up and I rewrote a lot of the lyrics, and I added lyrics. I rewrote some of the guitar parts, and it turned out to be a really decent song. It's something I'm probably going to be putting out on an EP once I'm done with the Everfree album. And it's all the different prompts. It just allowed me to think about my songwriting process differently. Like, one week it was essentially all the ponies have a friggin' hangover. And the next week it was the end of days. It was like sort of that, like how ponies came to be. Or there was one I wrote, a song called Only Time Will Tell, which is an 8.5-minute symphonic rock. Because I know that there were different headcanons about how the pony population and the pony civilization sort of was birthed out of the human civilization, post sort of like an Adventure Time-esque sort of incident. And I wrote a song about that, and now I still get messages to this day asking if it was about Fallout Equestria, and I've never read it once, so. But yeah, it's the Toastbeard competition really did allow me to push my limits in ways that I wasn't really able to do before, because it was sort of like I'm challenging you to do this, be experimental about it. And I found myself really rising up to the challenge a lot. Some were good, some were really not. Those songs didn't end up being publicized anywhere, but it just, ever since I started working full-time, ever since I started really trying to get my personal life in check, I just haven't had the time to do it, and I sort of regret that.
For all of you listening, Toastbeard, it actually started off to be something to encourage musicians to keep writing music in the fandom. And what they did is they held competitions where they would come up with a theme, and the musicians would write their music around that theme, and there would be competition writing period of about 1 week long. It was always a limited time period, and then they would go through, listen to the music together, and then vote on which one won.
It's a pretty interesting name. Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, actually, if I'm correct, the name Toastbeard is actually a bastardization test board.
Oh, test board, okay.
As in like circuitry and stuff like that, throwing down different resistors and stuff to see if certain circuits will work. Yeah, it's like Toastbeard test board. If I'm correct, I might be wrong. It's been 3 years, but I think 3 years, 2.5, something like that. It started in like March or February. Anyway, Yeah, it just sort of like a test board, sort of based on the whole circuitry idea, where you would throw down different capacitors or resistors and see what works. Experiment with circuits and work to get a final product. And that's sort of what we did. We were given a prompt. We were given sort of a do this, do that, do it in your own style, do it in someone else's style, that kind of stuff. And it was hella fun.
Yeah, it's a really awesome thing that that they ran, and there's a lot of musicians out in the fandom that have done stuff for it, including big names like Glaze and stuff. So for anybody interested in the Toastbeard stuff, go check it out at toastbeard.bronyradio.com.
Yeah, no, it's still running now. I haven't been able to keep up with it, but it's definitely something that new musicians should check out. The thing is, a lot of people, part of the reason I stopped doing it is that just as things started to get hectic in my own life, a lot of people were coming in and were going on about, ooh, I almost won this time, and it's really not about that. It's, you go in there, you experiment, you have fun, and that's really the point of it. You push yourself. The whole point is to push your own limits, see what you can do and what you can make, expand your horizons. It's not really about the winning. I mean, nobody won anything. There were no prizes or anything. It was a title, like, oh, I won the Toastbeard competition, guys. Don't you know? It's just, stuff and things.
How did you actually come across Toastbeard originally?
Actually, I was a Rose Luck role player on Pony-chan. And I was going around the musicians page on it one day and stumbled across it. It was the first week. It was like the first day it was posted, and I was like, this sounds cool. I'm going to find a demo that I'm doing absolutely nothing with and sort of submit it to that and see what happens. And it ended up being, I tidied it up. I made it fit the theme best I could, and it ended up being an interesting experience. So I did the next week, and I did the next week, and but yeah, no, I found it because I was just fooling around on Pony-chan because 4chan scared me. So.
Because yeah, that's actually how I had learned about Toastbeard, was through Pony-chan, because I jumped in there when Pony-chan first opened.
Yeah, it's, I don't know how long Pony-chan was open when I started checking it out. I just sort of stumbled upon it. The friend of mine who had sort of shown me about bronies, because he had started posting reaction images of the ponies on his Facebook, and actually, my introduction to the brony fandom, I asked him what those were for. He sent me a link to YouTube and a link to Cupcake, so hell of an introduction there. And within a week, I was on, I was checking out the episodes, I was catching up, and I think shortly after that, that's when I stumbled on Pony-chan, and it's where I broke my RPing cherry, I guess is the way to put it, because that's when I started digging around as Rose Luck on there.
Okay, hold up.
So you were introduced to the fandom. Wait, I think.
I was about to say the exact same thing. Through Cupcakes, and you're still here?
Well, he did write a rock opera based off of it.
Okay then.
Well, because it's.
All right. Yeah.
Well, no, I wrote the rock opera to mess with people. I mean, a 20-minute rock opera based on cupcakes. The fact that anyone takes that seriously is completely beyond me. I mean, have you listened to it? The entire thing is just 12 rip-offs. Every single part of that is directly rips off another song. It's like, I don't know, I wrote that because the people in the Toastbeard group were making jokes about the fact that my songs were 20 minutes long, so I went, you know what, I'll write a 20-minute long song. And the theme that week was based on Party of One, so I was like, you know what, might as well go the whole 9 yards. They want me to go extreme, I'll go extreme. So I did. And it ended up winning.
Well, cheers!
I think this is a recurring theme, because last week we had Slifstorm, and he was introduced to the fandom by Rainbow Factory.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, another Toastbeard song.
Blood and gore makes for good music, I guess.
It really does.
Yeah. Well, it's I don't know. The thing about Cupcakes is that I laughed when I read it. I couldn't take that shit seriously. It was like 3 pages of unnecessary, over-the-top gore that, their low-budget horror movies were better than that fanfic. It was obviously written to piss people off. You want stuff that's better. There's a movie called Unholy. It's this really terrible, I think it was a Redbox exclusive when Redbox was still relevant, And it was,
Hey, I still use Redbox.
well, I do too sometimes, but there was a period of time when it was actually relevant and it was like the big thing. And there was this one movie on there called Unholy, and it was god awful. And you know what? It was better than Cupcakes. Cupcakes is terrible. You know, I wrote it. I wrote Something Broke to mess with people. I didn't expect anyone to take it seriously, and now look at me now. I'm writing a 2-disc album based on it. It's oh Lord,
That's awesome.
I'm speechless. It's just beautiful.
dramatic irony at its finest.
While we're kind of off on the music subject, quick question: how did the Brony Jesus thing start?
Oh god. Well, apparently if you have long hair in the fandom, you're Jesus, and I've always had long hair, and I had always sort of been called Brony Jesus because I took a picture of myself and I had like ass length hair. You know, it was all down my back. I actually cut it about 1.5 years ago and have been keeping it sort of just above or just beyond my shoulders, just so I could keep it in check. But I took a couple of pictures and people were like, "Oh my god, you have facial hair and long hair, therefore you look like Jesus." And so I sort of rolled with it because a couple of people were doing it. I was like, that's funny. And then I took a picture of roommates when I first moved to Seattle, had taken curled my hair and taken a picture. And the lighting was right enough that someone actually photoshopped my head onto a painting of Jesus with the caption Brony G. I'm still getting notes on that list, I think.
Oh yeah, that picture's all over the internet.
I don't think I still.
Oh, I'm pretty sure Final Draft has it somewhere.
See, I had thought that the Brony Jesus thing started at Canterlot Gardens, but I think that might have just been where they actually took a Brony Jesus shot of you.
Probably. But no, it's.
Was it Canterlot Gardens though? Because I remember there's some picture happening.
Well, yeah, Canterlot Gardens. This was after the Brony Jesus picture was flying around. All throughout Canterlot Gardens, Final Draft was making Brony Jesus jokes. Every time I got within 20 feet of him, he would do Gregorian chants.
I like it. I mean, you just look very enlightening. It isn't even just the hair or the facial hair. It's how enlightened you look all the time.
I guess. Regardless, though, it's at the end of the convention, right after, I believe, closing ceremonies, or it might have been right before, he and Pony One took a tablecloth, threw it around my shoulders, took a picture of me with a bunch of other people, I believe the Brony Breakdown guys, and a couple of other people, and then proceeded to parade me through the con floor.
I just looked at it and I'm freaking dying right now.
You're listening to Elements of Harmony on Everfree, and this is Tarby with Silent Still.
Don't try to fight it.
You've done a lot of work with Hey Last Fast, right?
I guess I've done a lot of live work with him. He and I discuss doing work with each other a lot. We sort of throw ideas back and forth, but we haven't really done a full-on collaboration as of yet. It's something we do talk about a lot. We just neither of us have really found the time to be able to sit down and do anything. But I mentioned earlier about expanding on Something Broke, turning it into a 2-disc BS rock opera, and he actually helped me a lot with throwing ideas around for that. So yeah, it's he and I are close. We don't talk only because of our living situations and kind of where we're at right now. But yeah, no, it's he and I used to perform live together all the time. He and I just stopped going to the same conventions and shenanigans, really. But he's a cool guy.
Continuing that line of collabs, that was a wicked guitar solo you laid down for Bartrot.
Yeah, Cyril just hit me up randomly. Was like, hey, do you want to do a solo? I don't want to do a solo. What solo do you want? He was like, I want this kind of solo. I was like, I can do that kind of solo. So I did that kind of solo. You know, actually, I labored over that for something like a couple of hours. Honestly, it's a fast solo. It works for the song. It's not my favorite solo I've done, but that's actually some of the fastest playing that I've ever done, and I tried to do the rhythm, and it's way beyond me, so that should be fun performing live if we ever do it, because I might not be able to perform it.
Well, I hope we get a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really do too. I actually I use that solo as sort of a warm up now to make sure that I can get my chops up. So it's again back to the whole pushing myself thing. Gotta play fast.
I've got to say, it was really awesome that my first song that my voice was featured on had a Tarby solo.
Yeah, no, that was really, really cool. Like, he told me when he was asking me to do the solo, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. It's like, oh, yeah, no, Starlight's gonna be singing. I was like, okay, well, then I definitely have to do the solo now.
So you're talking about live performances, and I can honestly say that playing, or at least for me, playing 8 to 10 minute songs live, that might get pretty taxing after a while, especially if you're going to debut a 20-minute or hour-long song.
Yes and no. The thing is, I've grew up playing along to Grateful Dead records, so song length really isn't that much of an issue for me. Not meaning to toot my own horn, it's just it's sort of like what I grew up on. You know, if it wasn't Grateful Dead or Pink Floyd, it was Metallica, who, you know, they're bad at keeping their song length short.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so shenanigans upon shenanigans. It just really, in performing the long songs, what I try and do is I try and keep it so that it's less like performing, like, especially with Something Broke, it wasn't we're going to perform the entirety of Something Broke, it's we're going to perform the 12 of Something Broke and sort of just lay them into each other. And that's the really cool thing about how I write, is I do it, the longer the song is, the shorter the segments are, and it'll end up being less a 20-minute song and more a song with 12 vignettes, which could be in and of themselves their own songs. I mean, there's been many a convention that I've gone up and just performed the Cloudsdale segment of Something Broke. You know, and it's sort of how I do that. I mean, Dream Theater does the same thing with their 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence suite. They will oftentimes perform, you know, the Test at Sump Them All or Goodnight Kiss by itself without playing the rest of the song, and it'll be great as a standalone. So yeah, it's just about really the mindset and, you know, telling people certain part, and also we're going to do this part, and just focus on this part specifically. And eventually, we just take a 10-minute break after we're done with the 20-minute song. You know, put on some fun Last Fast music in the background.
Yeah, that makes sense.
One of the challenges that I'm sure you face with performing at so many conventions is finding people to perform with you. Now, I know with the artists kind of in the, well, quote-unquote acoustic side of the fandom, as opposed to the electronic side of fandom, we're all kind of chilling, we all kind of know everybody else's music, right? So we show up at a convention, we all kind of know each other's songs, but how difficult is it to actually put together a band for a set?
Actually, it depends. For something like BabsCon or for MSB MLP, it's gonna be a pain in the butt. For some conventions, it's a pain. For others, it's not. Like for Everfree Northwest, you've got Automatic in Portland, you've got a bunch of people who go there who know my stuff. You know, Don DeVore's there to play keys or guitar. You've got Jack to play drums. I've got a bassist up there. And I can usually find another guitarist to pitch in that knows my stuff or is willing to learn. But for stuff like MSP, MLP, I'm probably going to end up having to fly Automatic Jack out there. Like, he's trying to get his own set right now, in which case we're going to have to try and figure out how to get him a drum kit. And then from there, I have to find a bassist. I have to find at least someone to cover either guitars or keys. Like, I have to have one of them. I can do a set with 2 guitarists and no keys. I can do a set with a keyboard and 1 guitarist, but it's really hard for me to do just the guitar.
You're not a fan of backing tracks, then?
Not a fan of what?
Backing tracks?
I always use backing tracks. It's less about the backing track, because the backing tracks I use for the electronic drums, I use it for, I open BronyCon with a backing track. I'm working on backing tracks for Rejected and for most of the material that's coming on the new album. The thing is, it's less of a live aesthetic, it's less of a live feel. It's one thing to be able to play stock performance over a backing track. It's one thing to be able to play, okay, so I have to perform this, I have to perform that, and for them to be really no chemistry to it. But it's another thing if you've got a second guitarist up there that you're able to have solo over the stuff while you perform some rhythm underneath it. It's another thing to have the bassist come in and do some shenanigans on it. And I find that the audience likes it more when there's people to really shenanigan their way up there through the song. It's more fun, it's more of a live atmosphere. In BronyCon, I got people pumped. The first song I opened up was a drum and bass inspired track called What You Hope to Find, which is also going to be on the album. And I just pumped it out. I tried to get the people on stage as energetic as possible, moving around as possible. And I think if I were just up there performing in front of a backing track with 1 or 2 other people, the same effect would not have happened. It would have been a lot more stale. It would have been a lot more going through the motions, and I don't like that. I like being energetic. It makes it more of a pain in the ass to get the work done, but, it is what it is. Show must go on, the show.
Yeah. Your BronyCon set was really energetic, and it was surprisingly jazzy.
Yeah, I only ended up doing 2 songs because of, set timing issues that I don't really want to get into. The songs I did What You Hope to Find, and then the second song was a collaboration I did with Feather called Don't Say You Want Me. I wrote I wrote music to something that was heavily inspired by that sort of 90s alt-rock, pseudo-industrial sort of, like, the band Garbage, that kind of stuff. And I had no idea what to do with the song. I threw it at Feather, and she was like, yeah, I can sing over this, and within a week had final takes on vocals and lyrics written. And the song was released like a week after. So we ended up, because she was going to be there, I was like, we need to do this song. We ended up performing it together with my friend Klisk on bass. And yeah, it was a bit of a jarring change between What You Hope to Find and that, but I think it worked well enough in the end. The audience liked it.
The other thing I wanted to ask too is that with all the people that you've performed with and with all the conventions that you've performed at, do you have a favorite band? As in group of bronies put together to perform on your sets?
I do, but for the sake of being polite and courteous, I'm not going to say who those are.
Oh, come on. They're not listening.
Switzerland!
Okay, well, Automatic Jack is pretty much my go-to drummer because he's close and because he's used to playing heavy stuff. He also has a kit at his disposal. He performs in a local band that's really heavy stuff, like, just really, really heavy stuff. I've been to a couple of his rehearsals, and damn. Plus, he's played out, he's done shows, he is a matured, experienced musician. So he's my go-to drummer. I try and get him at cons whenever I can. Bass, it's a toss-up really between Cyril, Pony One Kenobi, and a guy locally, Gamma, Bram Briscorn, who's in Seattle. And he performed with me at a local show. He's 17 right now, I think, but yeah, he's a really good bassist. Cyril's a really good bassist, and Pony One Kenobi's a really good bassist, though I like him more when I do lighter sets, things like You and Me, Chaos Rising, and Cyril more when I'm doing the heavier stuff, like What You Hope to Find and Rejected. So really, if I can pick between the two, it'll usually depend on what sort of set I plan on doing. Keys generally is Don DeVore. I don't really know anyone else who plays keys. P1K joined up on stage with me once, but we didn't really have much in the way of keyboards at our disposal, so it ended up really not working out. Nothing against his playing, just that actually the whole LPU concert was kind of crap, but Actually, it was, oh man, that was a terrible show. I like to forget it existed. People say that the con going bad was like the worst part. No, my performance was bad.
Don't worry, with how drunk I was, I don't even remember your performance.
I don't think many people were there. It was something like 10 people who showed up. Everyone else was at
Ah.
parties because it was Vegas.
Well, I was up in the skybox watching from there.
Well, I was also debuting a lot of new material. And the beautiful thing about Everfree Northwest is that I had been working with people for months before in preparation for the Musiquestria tour, God rest its soul. And that's sort of the same story with BronyCon because it was the same band because we traveled across the country and we had performed the same songs or the same group of songs every single night that we had a performance. And we had them down by the time we got there. And we had them down by the time we did Everfree. And it was a really, really nice change from the sort of haphazardly thrown together performances that I was doing before. And it gave me a new standard on kind of the quality of the performance that I want. As for guitarist, Fenning played with me on the tour. He's an okay guitarist. There's really no one else I know of who has joined on to play guitar with me. So I really have nothing to go on with that. And again, same thing with keys. The only people who have done it have been P1K, who's okay, and Don DeVore, who has all of the equipment that I could ever want to use. Like, he actually brings up an entire Mac Pro when he performs. So,
Don has a really nice setup. Yeah.
yeah, his rig gets the job done. But I've yet to find really anyone else to really fit in the rest of those gaps. I mean, there's one individual back in my hometown of Cranston, Rhode Island, who is a fantastic guitarist. But he's not a brony, and though he really enjoyed performing with me because he hopped on stage for the final Boston show of the Musiquestria tour, he also lives on the other side of the country, and bringing him out to a convention that's about a fandom that he really has no interest in just kind of seems like wasting everyone's time. So, I've yet to find...
I was gonna say, I play keys, but I never have a visa.
Yeah.
Well, except for the time that I had... Well, no. International visa to be able to perform. I only got that once, but, like, the costs involved with it, like, it was $680 for me to perform at 2 conventions over a 1 month span, so, I'm not...
But you're not even getting paid.
What? Well, I had some of it paid. I didn't ever recoup my costs, totally. At least from convention stuff. I have a lot of awesome fans who sent some money to help out, so that was really good.
Yeah, fan support is really helpful. It's like, really.
Yeah, like it's amazing what fans will do for you to see you perform. It's really kind of heartwarming, actually.
Yeah.
However, to kind of bring this back to the music side, what actually got you into playing guitar?
I wanted to get laid.
Oh, right. So it was because you wanted to impress some girls.
I just wanted to impress people. I was an angry fat kid in high school and middle school. I was not pleasant. I was an asthmatic freak of nature that no one liked. I would piss people off regularly for my own kicks because it was the only way I got attention. And then I got sick. Really sick. Swine flu ended in my junior year after I'd sort of picked up the guitar and was like, I'm tired of people hating me. And started playing as a way for people to be able to look at me without... Basically use that as a massive shield of a, you can't hate me, I'm a music. And,
so that's how that works.
Guitars is a great way to do that.
Right? Yeah,
it also is really affected when you hit people in the face with it.
Right? Well, I've only learned that once and it was an accident, so.
They don't call it an axe for nothing.
But regardless, yeah, I started doing local battles of the bands where I would be terrible, and because all of us were learning our instruments. My old band, the Random Band, classy band name there. Some of my best naming right there.
It's the best name.
Right? Yeah, we were okay. But we all learned our instruments with that, with the exception of, like, the 2 bassists that came along, because we ended up going through bassists really, really a lot. Yeah, just by the time we were all done, we were all focused on other projects, and drummer's not talking to me for some reason right now, but yeah, that sort of fell apart, and right around that same time, I had just been recovering from being sick. And I just kind of looked at everything and went, you know what? Playing guitar is doing absolutely nothing for how people view me as a person. So I'm going to just basically hide away for a year. And I actually admittedly got really depressed and sort of fell off the face of the earth. Eventually, I pulled my head out of my ass. I ended up moving to my grandmother's house, got a job, got my GED, and just started really pimping this whole brony music thing because it was people were listening to my stuff, and I started actually writing music because I enjoyed it. You know, it's so many years of trying to write in order to impress people, and it turns out that I just genuinely enjoyed doing it. And that's kind of where I am now. I stopped every time I say something, every time I go onto a podcast like this, or I go online before I post something, I stop and go, is saying this gonna make me an asshole? And sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's not. Sometimes I post it anyway if I think that I can get away with it, but like, it's just, I don't know, growing up being the one person that even playing like music and being a guitarist could not help out with their social status kind of made me step back and think, maybe I need to change something about my behavior. So I started doing music for the music and started just being a decent human being, and it's worked out well enough so far.
So, Tarby, I had two last questions, just kind of wrap up this part of our interview. Outside of the fandom, what is one of your biggest inspiration?
Ooh, Nine Inch Nails definitely as of late. Devin Townsend, all of his projects are also a huge inspiration, as are Pink Floyd and Alter Bridge. I think those would be the top four.
Tarby, can I marry your musical influences? Just, oh my god.
Same.
Yes, you can.
I mean, I've heard you talk about Dream Theater, Pink Floyd, Devin Townsend. These are some of my favorite musicians.
Yeah, like Pink Floyd's been my favorite band since I was a kid, and Nine Inch Nails and Devin Townsend are sort of tied for two. Then there's Alter Bridge, then there's the Grateful Dead's up there, Gary Newman is up there, a whole bunch of other people. I actually posted a top 10 list recently on Tumblr, so.
So, a young musician walks up to you and asks you for a little bit of advice. What would you say?
Play as many covers as you can, and then emulate said covers.
Yes! Thank you!
One of the big things that has helped me has been mimicking and copying. It's all mimicry. When you go to school, when teachers teach you stuff, they write it on the board, you mimic it by writing it down on your paper, and that's kind of how it sticks. When you're learning a new language, people find that it's a lot easier for you to learn when you learn through immersion. It's sort of the same thing. Like, if you really like to play metal, put on a metal album, put on Ride the Lightning, put on some Meshuggah. If you have an 8-string guitar tuned to drop F, F not being the actual key, but F being the swear I'm not allowed to say. And just play along with it. Even if you don't know the actual song, solo over it. Some of my better solos have been inspired by the minimalistic techniques of David Gilmour. One of the first solos I learned was the acoustic solo at the beginning of Wish You Were Here. So, one of the reasons that I am here today, one of the reasons that I can play as many styles as I can, because, I looked into being a session musician locally, and I actually think I'd have a better chance doing it in Seattle, but, it is what it is. But it's because I went out of my way to pretty much play everything. And if you play everything enough, eventually you'll pick up something. Because it's just how it works. I mean, it's like when I really got into my metal phase, it was my real big introduction to it was Strappy Young Lad and Devin Townsend, which is the reason I play an open C guitar tuning. And so I spent something like a month learning the entirety of the Ziltoid the Omniscient album, and it's that kind of metal stuck. It's where we ended up with Rejected. It's where a lot of the stuff off the Escape album and a lot of the stuff off my new album came out. And you listen to all the stuff before that, You and Me, you listen to, which is basically a Green Day ripoff, Chaos Rising is a Led Zeppelin ripoff, etc., etc., etc. If you want to start playing music, play covers. If you want to start writing music, pick a song or two and try and emulate it, but make it your own, because it is very easy to get called out for plagiarism with that.
Alright, Tarby. On behalf of that young musician, I just want to say thank you for your words, and it is very insightful. And I'm sure a lot of people who are listening in, who maybe want to take a little inspiration from you, will definitely be very thankful for those words.
No, not a problem. I really, really do love answering questions and stuff, so I love doing interviews. I love when people ask me stuff on YouTube, on Twitter, on Tumblr, etc., etc. I don't know. I just if people want to know something, I'm an open book. Just ask. It's no biggie.
You're listening to Elements of Harmony on Everfree Network. This is Tarby with One Wish.
Tendencies to burn away the flames once it held so high, and now you watch them die. No one sees your motivations, can't perceive the end. With this you've lost your will, a final mental kill. Taking root inside the forest, deep within your mind, wander in the night, but finding burning bright. But now the fire's dead, you're left within your head. But now you scream up high, the heavens miss your cry. In the dark of the moon, you try to be alive. In the back of your mind, you fight just to survive. All around you in the dark, all you feel and see, all the faces and the voices telling you how to be. If I
All right, welcome back. This is the Tech Talk with Tarby, and we're going to talk about guitars because I love them.
Not bassoons.
Maybe bassoons.
You guys said you were going to talk about bassoons.
What about oboe?
What do we want to start with?
Wood. Let's get wood.
There's so many things to wood. Mahogany. You?
Everything I've got right now is Strats, so it's most of my stuff is either maple or alder. I have one guitar, my Open C guitar, which is a maple fretboard, and one which is the red one with the mirror pickguard.
Okay. So, like, no swamp ash?
Okay, now with the different types of wood, that all gives out a different timbre with the tonality of the guitar. So would you mind just kind of talking about that, you two, before you get into your huge geek out?
Oh yeah, I guess we should probably talk about that. Okay, so for me personally, I prefer mahogany just because I really like a well-rounded tone. Mahogany is a very dark, heavy wood, and it translates, and you get I don't know how to explain it. It's weird. It's just there. You hear it and you feel it, and it's awesome.
Well, the thing about mahogany is it has a much warmer, broader tone. It's beefier.
Mhm.
As opposed to a lot of cheaper guitars are made with alder, are made sometimes with basswood, maple.
Swamp ash, poplar, yeah.
Exactly. And they tend to have less of a brighter, less of a resonating tone. Though I kind of go for that. I like the cheap guitar sound. None of my guitars are over $500, unless it's all including modifications that I've done to them. So
Those are actually really nice. I've played them before. I always go and play cheap guitars because I'm like, oh, what is this one nice? No. Is this one nice? All right, it's all right.
I was going to say, you really liked my guitar. My guitar was like a $200 PV Generation EXP with like just an extra humbucker added.
Dude, that adds at least 500 horsepower.
I improved the tone of my guitar by printing out a sticker of Luna and putting it on the faceplate.
that would do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Just going back to the neck thing, with maple necks, it'll give you a sort of a twangier tone. Think sort of that, what's his name?
I think any country guitar player, Brad Paisley comes to mind. He plays a lot of Telecasters, which would be alder body, maple neck, maple fretboard.
Yeah, it'll give you that sort of twangy, bright tone. Not much warmth to it, which is the big issue that I'm getting with my Open C guitar right now, but whenever I play something clean on it, it sounds fantastic. Whenever I play something that has, like, sort of a low distortion, it sounds fantastic. And if I'm trying to get sort of that biting Yngwie Malmsteen sort of tone, it'll work well. It doesn't really do the beefy stuff well, though. Even with the pickup in bridge pickup position, I have a DiMarzio Evo, which is the Steve Vai pickup. As for rosewood fretboards, which are pretty much the most common, it's what you get on Les Pauls, it's what you get on most Strats. It's a much warmer tone, similar to sort of like how mahogany is sort of a warmer body tone, rosewood is a warmer neck tone. And yeah, it's really, really, really weird how just the different type of wood can drastically affect the sort of tone or even the output that you're getting on your guitar.
Also, fretboards especially, they definitely affect the feel. Like, rosewood is a little bit more porous, which means that it requires a little bit more maintenance. I'm horrible about my guitars, like they're all just bone dry. But they still play great, so there's that. But if you play on a maple fretboard, it's a little bit easier to bend strings, a little bit easier to slide just because it's a harder wood, or a less porous wood at least. And there's less friction, less resistance.
Yeah, now, do you know anything about ebony fretboards? Because admittedly, I've never actually played one, but I know that they're supposed to be even denser than maple, and which gives them a really bright tone.
Ebony is denser than maple. The thing is it actually... Okay, it's denser in the sense of density, in the physical sense, meaning volume and mass, but I think it's only slightly less porous than rosewood. And for those wondering, just in case you don't, or if you've never picked up a guitar, the fretboard is where the frets go, and it's where your fingers play the notes. I keep turning around and looking at my wall of guitars behind me. Do you have a specific brand that you like to buy?
Ooh, I'm a really big Fender fanboy. All my main guitars are Strats. I want to get a Telecaster, I want to get a Jazzmaster. The big thing that I come across is that they're small. Tonally, they're exactly what I want, but I find that they're tiny.
Yeah, they are really little.
Because I might not be a tall guy, but I'm kind of a really stocky, sort of beefy guy, and so, yeah. The thing about Les Pauls, though, is that it's one of the issues I have with them, is especially on the archtop ones. The strings are really high off the body, and that's not something I'm quite used to yet. I like the tone of them, but my old guitarist in my old band had a Les Paul Studio, and I could never really get the hang of it. I never really liked the tone or the feel. It was always a bit too square, I think is the way that I'd put it. It clipped hard, the cleans were really obnoxious, you had to almost instinctively roll it back if you wanted to play it. Just sort of inconvenient to play, to listen to. So, I don't know. I've played much better Les Pauls, but that's kind of how I was introduced to them, so it wasn't the best first impression.
While we're on the subject of electrics still, because we've been talking mostly about electrics, meaning brands and models and stuff like that, do you have a preferred pickup or pickup configuration?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of HSH configuration, especially because I grew up watching a lot of the bands and stuff I saw had, that sort of Strat-styled guitar that was designed for metal, like the Kirk Hammett sort of ESP metal Strat with the two humbuckers and maybe the single coil in between them. So that's what all my Strats have, except for one, which is a really good guitar I got off of rondomusic.com. It's a gold hardware, flame red maple body, and really, really snazzy. But I find...
You said HSH?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Never mind. Like Steve Vai guitars, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of Ibanez sort of approach. And most Fenders are not designed for that, so I actually had to go out and get the Fenders that I have routed out. I had to take a drill bit and route out the wood so I could fit the pickup in, and that took way too much time and way too much money. My main guitar, the red Strat, right now I have two Seymour Duncans in there, a custom in the bridge, which I have no idea what it is. I just know it's a custom one, and I love the tone. So I'm actually, once I get the money, I'm shipping that out to the Seymour Duncan custom shop to get some copies done. And the neck is just a 59 pickup, which is sort of a vintage output, vintage sort of sounding pickup to get that bluesy or even that Guns N' Roses distortion.
Yeah, it's supposed to emulate Slash's 59 Les Paul.
Sorry, just for us unknowledgeable folks, could you just kind of go over a little bit about the pickups and stuff, like different types of pickups, how the position matters, how it impacts the sound, that kind of thing?
All right, kiddies, sit down. It's time to start class.
The pickup there are a bunch of different kinds, which we can get to in a moment, but the general concept of the pickup is that it is an electromagnet. It is depending on whether or not you're playing a bass or a string, it's a magnet for each individual string usually. Could be more, sometimes they have bars that run across, but the general idea is that when the string vibrates, the distance between the string, which is metal, and the magnet will change, causing fluctuations in the electrical current, which are then picked up by the cable and then run through the volume knob, the tone knob, and whatever in the guitar, and then run over to the amplifier and converted into sound. Yeah. Now, there are a bunch of different types of pickups. There's the humbucker, which is one of the most common nowadays, which is two coils right next to each other.
Yeah, it would probably actually make more sense to introduce the single coil first. So the single coil is your basic pickup. It's got the 6 magnetic poles for each of the strings, and that's it. The good thing about the single coil is the fact that it's very clear. It picks up everything that the string is doing very well. The only problem is, on higher gain settings, or even depending on the guitar, of how hotly wound it is, meaning how big the magnetic field coming off of the coil is, it hums a little bit. It has a tendency to buzz, and you'll hear that in older style music before they really got into sound editing and stuff like that. But the humbucker adds another set of coils that are wound in opposite to the initial single coil, and that cancels the hum or bucks the hum. That's why they're called humbuckers.
Pretty much, yeah. Now, there are a couple of other types of pickups which are used. They're not as common, but on top of the single coil, going back to what Syx had said about how wound a pickup is, the more times you wind a copper coil around a pickup, the hotter it's going to be, the louder it's going to be. And so there's another kind of pickup called the P90, which is essentially an extremely overwound single coil. And though it has incredible amounts of noise which comes along with it, which is why a lot of them tend to be really low output, you also get the added bonus of having the clarity, being able to pick up the nuances like you would in a single coil, but have the warmth and depth almost like you would with a humbucker. And so it's sort of this middle ground that if you have a noise gate, it's actually a pretty decent classic rock sort of tone. And the last real pickup that people use, I'm not actually sure how it works, but it's a piezo pickup, which a lot of people use for acoustic stuff.
Piezo pickup is, well, on the very basic level, it's a very, 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 very small microphone. And what it does is it activates when it feels the body of the guitar vibrate. At least I think. That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's completely true. There could be somebody in the chat going, oh no, you're wrong. You're an idiot.
Yeah, the piezo pickup is literally just a piezo inducer, which is, it's oftentimes the thing used in electronic drum kits. Basically, what it does is it just picks up vibration. Okay, well, just now that we're in the piezo thing, there's also the other end of the spectrum, because we've been talking a lot about electric guitars, there's acoustic guitars, where the piezo pickup and even some single coil pickups are used frequently. Do you have any acoustic guitars? Because I have an old Epiphone one that I sort of use when I need to.
Yeah, I've got a Breedlove Atlas 12-string, which I think the jack actually is broken on it because it doesn't plug in very well anymore.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's fine. It's loud enough.
Yeah. Acoustic guitars have been around for centuries, and they were built upon variations of old lutes and lyres and stuff like that. And they have a sound hole. They usually have a really thick, open body in order to be able to resonate the tone and sort of naturally amplify it. However, with the advent of the big band, with the advent of, the drum kits and a whole bunch of other amplified systems, they needed something to be able to amplify it a bit more.
Yeah, to be able to compete with those volumes.
Yeah, I mean, there's the gypsy guitars, the gypsy-styled sound holes did help a lot. Like, if I'm correct, the kind that Django Reinhardt used, which were a much more oval sound hole, which ended up being a lot louder than the standard acoustic dreadnought sort of style. But the thing is, you lose in the warmth and the clarity of the acoustic guitar, you gain in volume with the electric. And it really, they play completely different styles. It's really hard to be able to play and get the same thing to sound the same on an electric that you would on an acoustic. It's practically a completely different instrument. I mean, whereas you need metal strings to perform on an electric for them to be able to be picked up, you often use a different kind of metal on the acoustics. In fact, originally acoustic guitar strings were made out of sheep intestine.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of the original strings were made out of that.
We reached the end of the show this week. Thank you very much for joining us, Tarby.
Not a problem. We'd love to be back soon.
So be sure to tune into Everfree Network this weekend. On Saturday, we have Eastern Sounds at 1 p.m., Mixology at 6 p.m., and Saturday Night Songs with Michelle Krieber at 9. On Sunday, we have Blue Screen Bronies at 7 p.m. and Pekka Sisters Live at 9 p.m. All times are in Central. Thank you very much for joining us this week. Until next time, this is
Forest Rain,
Starlight Ironhoof,
Zeta Prime,
and Syx String. Goodbye for now.
Get back, taking the anger that's bleeding through your soul. One moment poised for the taking, the next you need to go. One